I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with Emmy nominee Craig Zobel, who is nominated for a DGA award, along with his team, for directing the limited series Mare of Easttown. Craig, first of all, it's really fascinating that you decided to direct all 7 episodes. That sounds like a really huge kind of undertaking to do. What are the benefits of doing a series like Mare of Easttown, where you're doing the whole thing?
I guess that the first and kind of like most noticeable to me benefit of like doing the whole thing is especially with something that has this kind of murder mystery plot, was to be able to make sure that we were honoring that plot like over the course of the other things that you're trying to do in an episode. Like if you just kind of come into like 1 or 2 episodes of a show in the middle of the thing, you might not know how a different character kind of played a different beat, where we were able to say like, okay, I'm pretty sure that that's going to read, this or that scene in episode 2 is going to probably read this way from what we actually, compared to what was on the script, like what we actually shot. It felt a lot more like the performance, sent you in this or that direction, so that you could, just monitor and kind of like make sure that you were telling the story, the whole, from a kind of a global perspective while you were working in a day-to-day scenario.
Yeah, I can understand that. I can imagine you'd probably get a lot of questions about, the confronting subject matter of the show, and particularly maybe working with Kate Winslet. I wanted to take a little bit more of a deeper dive, if possible, because months after seeing it, I still think about it from time to time, because it really did impact me personally. I just, for example, episode 6, Storm Must Be the Storm, when Mary's opening up about her trauma and grief in therapy, because she clearly hasn't properly, addressed her son Kevin's suicide. She recounts a horrible day, and then of course we see that flashback where she's bounding into the house and up into the attic. I've never really seen a scene like that before. It affected me. I'm sure you hear that often from people, and it blew my mind. I'm just wondering what was the most challenging part of putting that scene together, because it was very impactful, and I can imagine it would have been difficult to do on the day.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting kind of scene to think about and talk about, actually, because when in the screenplay there was a reference to like seeing a flashback, but when we shot Kate in the therapy session, she's quite compelling. Like it was pretty interesting to just watch the person tell you the story. Like I started to kind of like think to myself, like, I wonder if like in the edit room we're not going to even go to a flashback, because like, look at what we have an incredible actor, like being riveting, telling you something that happened in their past. So then that actually kind of colored like the making of the rest of the flashback, if that makes any sense. And we shot the flashback in different pieces, actually, due to like location stuff, like the outside of the house and the inside of the house and whatnot. So what it kind of did was it sort of made everyone, in looking at those flashback scenes, say like, okay, well, what do we do to beat Kate just telling the story? Like, what's going to be even better than that? Like what is an image that is going to like be impactful and kind of resonant in that? And that was, like it certainly, I can say like it wasn't a very long day. Her going up in the attic and seeing all that stuff. I think that there's maybe 2 takes or 3 takes of that. There's not a whole lot of, she couldn't do that a whole lot of times, for one, just because it's so emotional. And it was, in some ways, it was interesting because, like I said, it was like we felt safe in the scene in a way, so we were able to see, like, get to play around with what the image of that day would have been in a way that I don't know that we would have. Had we shot it in a different order, I don't know that we would have felt that way. but I felt like that really did help, because I already knew, just sitting in the watching her do that in the therapy office was like emotional for everybody on set. So like I knew that kind of like we had the scene in a way, so we were able to kind of layer on top of that. Yeah.
That's so fascinating, because I'm so glad you said that. I found the therapy session probably even more emotional than seeing it, because of the way that she would pause and stutter and stare off into the distance. It's really magical. And it's and I credit obviously to Kate winning an Emmy, but also credit to you. The other scene I wanted to mention, well, sequence is Detective Colin Zobel, your namesake.
Right, and randomly that was just like very random.
I know, right?
I have to say it was not that was not like changed or something. I mean, I actually wanted to kind of change it, and now it's just this funny weird.
I love it. I love that connection. But he's played so beautifully by an Emmy winning now Evan Peters. And he's so vulnerable, and he opens up and he has a crush, he propositions Mare, and then bam, he's shot and dead. Did not see it coming. And I remember on social media, people were beside themselves. So what work goes, as the director, what work goes into making an audience fall in love with a guy and then gut punch them, pull the rug from under them, and then he's gone?
So interestingly enough, I mean, for one, this was we knew it was a limited series. So like, I guess I had always kind of approached that character as kind of understanding that they were going to die in episode 5 in order to kind of like help further Mare's story, like it becomes, her darkest moment or whatnot. So working backwards from that, it was like, that character kind of was there to be the Watson in a certain sense in the detective story, and be able to like say a lot of expositionary, things that we kind of needed to make sure that everybody was tracking. And I just remember going to Evan and being like, how do we? It also sort of like the on the page, like I think the first blush idea that you would maybe like go to with that character would be that he's like the hot shot from New York, who's like come in. And so, it was in early discussions with Evan, just talking about like, what's a way that we can subvert that and make you like love him, so that it is kind of like a big gut punch. And funny enough, like in the screenplay, it had described, actually in the episode in which he dies, is a time where he's very nervous to go out with her and to go out with Mare, and so he like drinks a little too much at dinner, and I remember like having a conversation with Evan and being like, I think we maybe need to move this up and just have this happen, have you be too drunk in a scene that early in the story, where like it's like kind of the idea that I pitched was like, when you meet a coworker and you see them out in public and they're clearly like way drunker than they probably intended to be, and you're like, whoa, that guy's tying one on. And like the idea being that like he starts off as this kind of hotshot detective guy, but pretty quickly you can see that there's like a vulnerability, and that's like all like posturing. that hopefully that would like lead you to kind of love him more and sort of empathize with him. That was sort of the pitch, basically.
Well, it really worked, because I remember finishing that episode and it was just completely blown away. Craig, thank you for your time. We're going to bring you back for a chat shortly.
Excellent.